And it is officially time to start. So welcome guys, welcome to London. We are live from St. Giles and it is 11 p.m. UK time, 29 of December 2023. I always like to say the date because I know sometimes people are a bit confused on whether they are watching live or whether they are watching the replay. So if it's no longer 29 of November, you're probably watching a replay. And just in case, if any of you were completely new to me and you have no idea what we're doing tonight, so those little Monopoly tours, they should really be called Murder on Monopoly because most of the time I find some interesting murders for you. What we do is that I've thrown the dice on the board at home, the Monopoly board, and we ended up on Bow Street. So we'll have a little look in the area. I'll tell you some snippets of history and I'll show you some properties. And I'll ask you to guess the price. It might be rental or it might be to buy. So make sure you listen to the details before to try guessing. And for the ones that don't know me, I'm Natalie and let's go. So let's start here. So we are on Earlham Street. This was sadly in the year 2000 the site of a horrible murder. And a very sad one because it could have been avoided. It was a failure of, the system really. There was a young boy, 12 years old, called Diego, that lived here. He lived behind me towards Phoenix Gardens. For the ones that don't know Phoenix Garden, it's a lovely little park. We've been there before when we talked about Elizabeth Stride nearly a year ago now. And Diego, so as his name say, was from Spain originally. His mother was Spanish. He met a homeless man in the gardens, and they became friends. So a very unusual friendship. The man was 52 years old, and he suffered from schizophrenia. Now, I want to stress that not everyone suffering from schizophrenia is dangerous for themselves or others. I know one of my best friends actually suffers from schizophrenia, and he kind of also suffers from the image of the mental health condition. So not everyone is dangerous, but of course it has to be monitored. Some people can be. And Edward had actually changed his name, and he was not taking his medication. And he lived around here on the streets. And he started this kind of, what one might say, unnatural friendship with little Diego. Clearly the homeless guy had some, attractions that, I'm not going to say the term because that's the kind of term we're not meant to say on YouTube, but you know exactly what I mean, right? And the homeless man and little Diego went to the swimming pool. They actually spent a lot of time together until Diego realized that there was something wrong there, and he actually kind of cut off the friendship. And the homeless man became very jealous, and he started to harass the little Diego. He actually went to his school, his Spanish school in West London, and he tagged in Spanish, on English, on the wall, "Diego, why did you cheat on me?" And the homeless man was actually taken to the police station a few times, and he confessed to have an affair with little Diego. But the mother didn't really want to give a statement or anything, so it didn't really go any further. Edward was released actually a few times, and then it started again. So poor little Diego was literally harassed, and then it went quiet for a little time, and then one day Diego was with his half brother right in front of Cafe Nero, just there, when the homeless gentleman found him and stabbed him. Horrible case, and really, if we had, managed to follow up on the homeless gentleman and to check on the situation and to treat his condition, really, it could have been avoided. There used to be a tree with little messages of love and respect for Diego, but not so much anymore because, I suppose it's been a while now. But yeah, very sad case. And to talk about something a bit more joyful, this is the beautiful Seven Dials. So beautiful place with 7 streets going around the little roundabout. And we are now on Short Gardens. And guess what? I have a property here. So the entrance is right here across the street. See the little staircase? Let me show you the inside of the flat. I think it's a rental. Let me check. Yes. So we're talking about the 2 bedrooms to rent. So we're looking for a monthly rent. And it is up there. So let me show you the photos. It's quite nice. So we're looking for a monthly price. How much would you pay for a 2-bedroom up there? 2-bedroom monthly. I'll let you guess in the chat. So how much would you pay for a 2-bedroom? Mike says 2,500. It's a bit more. 2,400 says Linda. It's a bit more. You can double that really. Tariq says 1,500. You guys are seeing a bit low tonight. With terrace, yeah, I don't know if it's a terrace. I think it's more like a mini balcony that has a view on the inside courtyard. Linda says 3,200. Seth says 4K. Carol Sue says 4K. Joy says 4K. $20, Natalie says. Well, let me show Pisas. You know what? I think you are the closest so far. Let me show you the answer. So £3,890 per calendar month. So yeah, quite expensive, but to be honest, it's pretty much average for this area. So we're just by what we call St. Giles. St. Giles today, it's quite cool, but back in the days, it used to be a slum. It was known as the St. Giles Rookery. You had families, full families living inside 1 bedroom, up to 27. There was a journalist that came here in Victorian times, and he found 27 living in a single room. And you've missed the game, Michelle. Well, good to have you back. And the St. Giles slum, it is also where there was, yes, exactly, Tariq, the famous engraving from Hogarth, Jean Alley, was based here. And it's also here that there was a beer flood in, welcome Mel, in 1814. There was a beer flood. You've heard this, right? There used to be a brewery here that was, it had a massive vat, you know, those big, like the size of a swimming pool, really, of fermenting beer. And you know the barrels, they have those kind of little wooden thing around the barrel. Well, that exploded. And there was we're talking 15-foot high wave of beer. It sounds funny, but people died. 9 in total, 8 plus 1. Apparently, someone died of the alcohol intake after that. So it's actually very sad. The big wave of beer. I'm gonna try to go into the yard here. If you lose the signal, do let me know. So the no, yes, a bad way. Well, you know what? It was. There was a little boy that had just died, and they had a wake for the 2-year-old that was dead, and the beer went into the basement and they drowned as well. And according to some of the articles about it, some people were scooping up the beer, and one guy died later on of alcohol poisoning. So yeah. Can you still see? Because sometimes the signal drops a bit here. So this is the beautiful Neil Yard, named after Thomas Neil. There was an MP that designed the Seven Dials. So beautiful little spot. And would you believe this was going to be destroyed? This used to be warehouses. They worked with the Covent Garden market. And when the market closed in the late 60s, this was going to be destroyed. And some alternative culture people decided to save it. They opened one of the first vegetarian restaurants here called Food for Thought, and now of course it's so beautiful, and we're so glad to have it still. And I'm really glad the signal stayed, because the last time I came here it had dropped, so that's great. It's probably because it's late at night and it's not busy. Anyway, let's go back on the main street. So yeah, very, very busy slum. So busy that, imagine 27 people living in a room, but remember in Victoria, they used to had people. They used to connect from one home to the next. So apparently the criminals, they sometimes use the cesspits to escape. So very bad slum, very big contrast with the prices we see today. Now, we are actually going to take a right here just because it's much nicer on Neal Street. But straight ahead, if we went up to the next junction, that'll be the site of the St. Giles Workhouse. We're not going to go because there's nothing to see. It's a block of council flats today. The workhouses, I'm sure most of you know, we've spoken about them quite a few times in my tours. They were those accommodations for the very poor. So if you've watched Oliver Twist, you might have seen the superintendent that was absolutely horrible. Well, some of those superintendents actually were horrible. Actually, Dickens, we believe, was probably inspired by the Strand Union Workhouse just above Soho, because he had lived near there as a child. And in Oliver Twist, the superintendent is horrible with the kids and with everyone. Well, guess what? He had the St. Giles Workhouse. They had a superintendent. He was actually an assistant superintendent. His name was George Cannon, and he was jailed for manslaughter, and he deserved it. What happened is in 1872, there was a young girl here. I think she was early 20s. She was a mother of three, born in a very poor family. She had only one relative, an aunt, that lived in Soho, but she didn't have enough space to host all the family. And every so often she could sleep there, but not full time. She had a boyfriend, and they had planned to move to America, and she was pregnant at the time, and she didn't get the permission to board the boat. So her boyfriend was like, bye. So he left her here with no income and three young kids, one of 7, one on 4, and the little baby came out as well, little Charlie. They've removed the tree. When I came to check the properties 2 days ago, there was a Pepsi Cola tree here. Pepsi, like the soda. They've removed it. Probably good. And so yeah, the young Eliza was really on and off the streets, and she would have to spend time in the workhouses. And she had been to the St. Giles Workhouse a few weeks earlier with her kids, and she was frozen. She was absolutely frozen with her little toddler in her arms. The little Charlie was probably sucking all the energy out of her from her nipples, and she was just freezing cold on the streets with her 3 kids. She comes at the workhouse, and the superintendent, the horrible George, he said, "No, you're drunk." And she wasn't drunk at all. She didn't have money for drinks. She didn't have money she was trying to feed her kids, and she probably just was frozen on the wet, and she might have maybe, spoke a bit funny, or maybe even nearly fell or whatever, because she was just cold. And she said, "No, I'm not drunk." The only rules at the time in the workhouses, if a bed was available, unless you were drunk or rude, they were meant to give it to you. It was for people in need. That was what they did. And then you'd have to work really hard the next day. But they had to give you a bed. And he was like, no, I'm not taking you in. You're drunk. And eventually, he did let her stay. But the next day she had to work very hard. He gave her a massive quantity of oaken picking. So that's when you have those ropes, the British Navy had to add kilometers of rope. So when the ropes were getting a bit old, what they did is they used prisoners or people at the workhouse with their little fingers to pick out the fibers to be able to make new ropes. So after her night in the workhouse, he's given her tons of rope to do. And poor Eliza, she did it with her little fingers that were probably still frozen, but she actually didn't finish the job because she fell asleep. So she was then kicked out of the workhouse with her kids. And weeks later, she had been able to spend a few nights at her aunt in Soho, but then her cousin or whoever reappeared, so she had to go. It was a freezing cold November day. And it was raining, so she was again with her 3 kids, one being 14 weeks old, little Charlie. And he had some kind of a bronchitis or a bit of a cough. Not too bad, but the baby was sick. She went back to the St. Giles. Well, she went first to the Strand Union Workhouse in above Soho. It was full. So usually the superintendent would give you a little note saying it's full, go to the other workhouse, and they had to take them. That was meant to, the note said, please take them, please take Eliza and the 3 kids. So this is Covent Garden station. I'm not going to tell you too much about the station today because we've been here before in some of my tours. It is very much haunted, but you know the story already. So she left that workhouse again in the rain with the little toddler being frozen and wet in her arms, still coughing. And she went back to the St. Giles workhouse when the superintendent read the note saying, please accept Eliza and the 3 kids. And it was like, well, you got to come in then. And then she probably didn't have the energy to say a proper thank you, or maybe she just stumbled on something and we don't really know what happened, but then he went like, you're drunk again. He probably had a cross next to her name, he probably remembered her as being such an insolent that didn't finish the job. And she was like, no, I'm not drunk. And he called the police, which he had already done the time before, but the police refused to persecute. And a young police officer came and he was like, no, I'm not going to take her for drunkenness. She's not drunk. And the superintendent told the little police officer, I'm going to report you if you don't, if you refuse to do it. So the young man, being scared for his job in the police, he actually did take the family to Bow Street police station. That's where we're heading to now. And at the station, they agreed she was indeed not drunk at all. But then the guy from the workhouse wanted to persecute her for using a fake name, which was not really the case. She was using her married name. Anyway, so by then, the little toddler had spent, in total over 3.5 hours in the rain. And at the police station, they had a doctor and they looked at the little boy and he was very, very unwell. He had to go to the infirmary. So they took him back to go into the infirmary at the workhouse. And sadly, the little boy died. Not straight away, but a couple of days later. And guess what? The superintendent, George, he was persecuted for manslaughter. And he did go to jail. So only 12 months, so not much, but at least he was indeed found guilty because he had absolutely no reason to play God and decide who can sleep in the warm and who cannot, So at least he was indeed persecuted. So we are now on Bow Street. See the name? So this is the one we meant to explore. This is the one on the Monopoly board. And very sad story. Well, a lot of the workhouses stories can be very sad. Apart from one success story. Charlie Chaplin, that was in a Workhouse as a kid, and of course went on to have an amazing career. But yeah, and welcome 01 Red. So this is Bow Street, and I've got a property here for you. Let me show you the front of it. The building to the right, you have the Royal School of Ballet. So that's where the fictional Billy Elliot went to the School of Ballet here. And that's why we have a little statue of a ballet dancer. And we are just by the former Bow Street station, but we'll get to that. For now, let me show you the flat. And if you wanna, I think it's to buy. Let me check the information so I don't say anything wrong. So it's a 2-bedroom as well. And it is, okay, so it's a 2-bedroom to buy in this building here. It's at the top, I can see from the shape, because it's a bit like a rounded bedroom. So right here, 2-bedroom to buy. How much would you spend? Tina is asking what part of London. We are just in Covent Garden. We are on Bow Street, Tina. So how much would you spend for this beautiful flat here in Covent Garden? So we are right by the Royal Opera House. Yeah, penthouse, yeah, exactly, Elizabeth. Ooh, Tariq, it's actually less. We have a little terrace, so that's lovely. Rose says 3.5 million. Oh, you guys, Elizabeth, you are the closest so far. It is a lot, but it's not that much. Mel, it's actually a bit less. Ooh, Sarah, far less. It's not that bad here. Tina, you're quite close as well. You couldn't afford that picture. Well, Andrew, me neither. Right, let me show you the answer. Cynthia, you're not too far either. There we go. 1.1 million. And I think that's pretty much the prices, because when I did Bow Street, remember nearly 2 years ago now, we had a flat around here that was the same price. So yeah, not too bad compared to some of the flats. Oh, Herbivore, you're not far either. Right, we are right by Bow Street's former magistrate court. And so let me tell you the story about policing in London, really. At the beginning of the 1700s, we didn't really have a police force here. In some countries we did, like in France, we did have it was an extension of the military. And that was not an idea that Londoners would like. So the only, you had some kind of parish constables, but the parishes, they were very small, just a few streets. And the constables, they were often quite old and often infirm. Exactly, Elizabeth, the Bow Street runners started here. They were not useful. And even when you did get caught, like let's say you got caught pickpocketing, the general public could take you to a magistrate, but you'd have to pay the magistrate. You'd have to pay them. So it was a recipe for corruption, really. And for example, if you were a sex worker, well, very often the magistrate were quite nice, as long as they could use your service for free. So there was a lot of corruption. And so at the beginning of the 1700s, let's say if you had your wig stolen, yes, you've heard this right. There was a lot of wigs being stolen. Wigs were very expensive at the time, you know. There was even a tax on wigs. How the heck did it get in London? What is it, the police? Oh, yeah, so you could, let's say you were pickpocketed your watch and your wig. What you could do was to go to the Old Bailey and try to find a magistrate or a thief catcher. It was it was a recipe for disaster, with a lot of corruption. And one man knew knew how to take care of that and abusing the system. His name was Jonathan Wild. He claimed to be a thief catcher. So, and he was actually a criminal. What he would do is he'll have a lot of pickpockets working under him. And if you got your wallet stolen, you'd go and see him, you'd describe the item, and he would then pretend to have found the thief, when the thief actually worked for him anyway, and then he'll negotiate some kind of a ransom to get your items back. And it worked very well. He actually became the thief catcher, the thief taker general of Great Britain and Ireland. And when the pickpockets refused to work with him, he would give them to the authorities, because the thief catchers, they used to get £40. We're talking nearly $7,000 in today's money. So now it is a hotel, the former police station. And it was basically a massive scheme. He came out as a hero, catching the thieves, and he was actually profiting massively. He actually convinced the authority to bring the reward even more, to £140 for catching a thief. And then at the time you had what they called the bloody code. Because the system was not working well, there were a lot of public executions. You could be executed for pickpocketing. And the very ironical thing is that when you went to the execution, it was full of pickpockets. So one was being hanged, and then others were actually pickpocketing the pockets of the audience. I mean, it was ridiculous. You could be executed for stealing a few apples at the time. It was just madness. And there was a writer, kind of satiric political writer, that criticized that system. He actually he wrote a book on Jonathan Wild. His name was Henry Fielding. And Wild, by the way, he finished quite badly. It's because of Jack Shepherd. It was a thief that refused to work with him, that managed to escape from prison a few times, so he became a bit of a hero, and eventually he was hanged. But then the reputation of Wild went down. He was no more of a hero, and people exposed him. So Jonathan Wild was executed as well. He was not dissected, but his body was stolen from St. Pancras graveyard. You might know St. Pancras, we've been there together. And his skeleton is actually still visible at the Ontarian Museum. I hope it should have reopened by now. I should try to go if it's still there. So anyway, this is now the Bow Street Police Station Museum. It's a very cool little museum. It opened not even 2 years ago now. I've been, I don't know if you can read actually on the light because it's a bit too bright, but it says Police Station Museum. When they first opened, they invited all the tour guides. Well, not me, they invited all the blue badges, but I invited myself. So it's a very cool little museum. Yes, we started 41 minutes ago, Louise. Yeah, if you've missed the beginning, you can catch it up on replay later on. So Henry Fielding, he was a playwright. He was a writer, and he actually criticized the system. Then he got banned from the playhouse, so he became a magistrate, and he created, because basically they needed someone with brain and principles. That's exactly what he could offer. So he actually created the Bow Street Runners. Right here behind me, they were based here. And they were some kind of early, what we would today call police constables. They were not quite yet the police. They were, and when Henry died, his brother John Fielding, actually took over. And they're creating some of the basics of the police today. Anyway, in this building, I've got two properties for you. Let me show you. So we've got one to buy, one to rent, but let me show you first the images. So the first one is going to be a monthly rent. Oh, hello, foxy friend. Come. I've got some peanuts. Hello. I'm going to try to give him some nuts. Hold on. I've got some food for you, my love. No, I got some food. Stay. No. He doesn't want my nuts. So yeah, we have a lot of them in London. 19 per square kilometers. So we see them a lot at night. Anyway, so we've got 2 flats here. The first one is for rent. Let me show you the photos. So 2 bedrooms again, and we're looking for a monthly rent. Yes, Elizabeth, we have a lot of urban foxes, a lot of them. And they used to be a bit more wild, but since the COVID lockdowns, people have started to feed their local foxes. So now you can sometimes wake up with a fox in your living room. There was one on the bus last week. Where is the Ontarian Museum? It's in Lincoln's Inn Field. We actually, well, you know what? I should reschedule that tour. We see the building in one of my tours. So, how much would you pay monthly for this beautiful 2-bedroom in the building just there ahead of us? So, 2-bedroom, Cynthia, it's a bit more. Oh, you have coyotes. I'd like to see a coyote. Linda, I think you're quite close. I think it's even a bit more. Luan, a bit more. Trish, bit more. Oops, oh, the chat went quickly. I've missed a few. Elizabeth, I think you're quite spot on. You know what? Let me double check. I think Elizabeth is the closest so far. Ta-da! 5,200 a month. So, yeah. I don't know what you need to do as a job to make that much, but yeah. Too rich for your blood. Yeah, it's mad, but I might too. Cool. So that was for the rental one, and we have another one to buy. So we are again looking for a 2-bedroom, 2 bedrooms to buy. And let me show you the photos. So we're looking to buy 2 bedrooms again. You need a rich husband. Yeah, very rich. So how much to buy this one? 2.5 says Tariq. It's actually a bit less. Oh, Caroline, you're not too far. It's even a bit less. Elizabeth, you're getting very good at this game, Elizabeth. Oh, Mike, you know what? I think you're actually the closest. Yeah, well done, Mike. Spot on. Ta-da! Oh, Robin, you're quite close as well, yeah. And if you did buy this lovely apartment, if you have kids, well, guess what? There's a little playground here. We won't see much of it because it's very dark, but the level of the ground is much higher than the level of the street. Any guess why? I think you probably start to know why by now. A lot of the places in central London, when the ground level is a bit too high, there might be some secrets underneath. Do we know what? Exactly, Caroline. There was actually a graveyard that belonged to St. Martin's in the Field. That was absolutely saturated. And today you have a playground on top. So if you want your kids to play on dead bodies, that's where you want to come. It was not a plague pit, it was just a normal burial ground. That was also quite well targeted by the body snatchers at some point. Oh, thank you so much, Elizabeth. Thank you for the tip. If you don't have the links, guys, because of the bug, I wasn't able to put the links for the tipping at the top of the chat. So feel free to use the YouTube one as well, guys. That's absolutely fine. Anyway, I didn't finish to tell you about the police. So we had the Bow Street Runners, and then eventually at the beginning of the 1900s, there were a lot of police reforms and prison reforms. The prison started to be not to be mixed anymore, and the prison officers started to be paid, and a lot of crimes were no longer capital punishment. And eventually, under Prime Minister Robert Peel's, they finally created the Metropolitan Police Act. So the police officers were called Peelers or Bobbies after Robert. And they had been inspired by the Bow Street Runners, as well as the Thames Police. The Marine Police was actually created already in 1798 because we had so much crime on the river that they had to find a solution. What are the stickers? Oh, the stickers, Matthew, it's basically to leave a tip. So they call it a sticker. So it's basically you buying a sticker, basically, but it's to leave me a tip. Yeah. Right, so let's go back on, so that's going to be the end of Bow Street there, but the street literally continues and becomes Wellington Street. And we have a couple of properties there, and one more murder, but let's go and see the properties first. So one of them is just across the street there, well, at least according to the pin drop on the website, right in the middle of your screen there. Let me check, I think this one is to buy as well. I'll just double check so I don't say anything wrong. Oh yeah, to buy. So I think it's right here in this building. Let me show you the images. It's probably looking the other side because one of the windows is different. How much would you buy? So 2 bedrooms again to buy. So 2 bedrooms to buy. Oh, thank you so much, Matthew. 2.3 million, says Cynthia. Let me show you again. 2.1, 2.5. Robin, so far I think you are the closest. Seth, you're not too far either. Tish, it's a bit more. Pisas, yeah, you're quite close as well. 50 pounds. Right, let me show you the answer. Ta-da! 1,600,000. So, yeah. And it is a leasehold, so you don't really buy forever, like giving it to your grandkids. You actually buy for 90 years, or it was not published how many years, but it's not. It's a slightly different status. Anyway, we've got one last flat here. It is. Let me go on this side, so I'm not in the middle of the road. It is just here. I don't know if it's the one with the lights in the middle or the one above or underneath it. We're looking for a monthly rent. It should be easy because it's the same type of prices as we've seen earlier. The two bedrooms again. So we're talking a 2-bedroom to rent, monthly rent. Let me show you the photos. So little balcony at the back, 2 bedrooms, not furnished apparently. How much would you buy? So that's to buy. So this one is no, sorry, not to buy, to rent. Sorry, my bad, I'm confused. So this one is to rent. $3,400 says Linda, 4,200 says Robin, 5,000, 3,800. 4K. Well, you guys are good. You're getting good at this. Let me show you. Ta-da! 3,250. To be honest, it's not too bad. It's really not too bad for the area. Not that I would have that type of money to put into a flat, but we've seen worse. Yeah, it's quite nice to have a little balcony. Yeah. Anyway, let me show you a pub. We've been here before in my Covent Garden tour, but I didn't tell you about that particular murder. So we're going back to 1940. So we are at the beginning of the war. We are actually a few days after the beginning of the Blitz. There was a bomb that had shocked a few soldiers in the area, and do the ghosts come with the apartments? Probably. I'm afraid it's maybe not in the contract, but yes. And so yeah, they were. It was at the beginning of the war. The bartender actually in the pub, his name was Morris. He was 40 years old. He had lost his job because of the war, so he had been working in the pub here for about 9 months. So this is the Coach on Horses, lovely little pub. And one morning in 1940. There was only one customer inside because it was early morning when a young man that we know now to be a young Canadian, let me cross, Canadian soldier. Oh, yes, there we go. He was originally from Glasgow, but he had left to go in Canada as a child. His name was James Forbes McCullum, 21 years old. And we still don't quite know what happened that very morning. He stepped into the pub with his gun. He had some kind of a balaclava on his face, but he had not taken time to cover his Canadian military outfit, so they knew that he was from the military. And he pointed the gun at the poor Maurice, the bartender, and he said, "Paper money, hands up, paper money." There was no paper money. It was like early morning. They had only the float, so they had only a few coins for the time being. No paper money. And then he managed to hit himself in the arm. What we believe happened is that he let a gunshot go, and at the time they had some kind of to protect the bartenders, they had some kind of it's like a window with metal in between, and the bullet probably hit the metal and back towards his arm. And what we believe might have happened, he probably believed that the bartender shot at him as well. So because he was hit, he actually shot and killed the poor Maurice. So that was a robbery that went wrong. He didn't get any money. There was hardly any money to get in the pub anyway. That was a very stupid robbery and murder. And when he got arrested by the police, he actually gave them 5 different excuses. First, he said he was drunk. He couldn't be drunk because he actually was drunk 2 days earlier, so that was wrong. Then he said he was traumatized because of the bombing. That's actually very possible. It was one of the first few days of the Blitz, and some of the scenes that he might have witnessed probably were completely traumatizing. And also he had just met a young girl and he wanted to marry, but he wrote a letter to his mum to ask for permission. She said no, and he said, "Stuff it, I'm gonna marry her anyway." But he didn't have enough money to marry her, so he probably just wanted to rob a pub to get the money, and yeah, very sadly, that was all for nothing anyway. So he got caught fairly quickly because there was an eyewitness in the pub that had spotted the Canadian military uniform, and also they knew he was hit in an arm, so it's quite easy to look for a Canadian officer with a wounded arm. So he was caught fairly quickly, I'm afraid. So that's the murder of the coach on horses. Anyway, we are now in the beautiful Covent Garden market. So I wanted to stop here to show you the Christmas lights. Some of you might remember, we actually saw the beginning of them on Halloween. When I did my Covent Garden tour on Halloween, they were already installing those beautiful lights, which was at the time a bit annoying because I wanted some Halloween deco, not some Christmas deco. But yeah, and this is the beautiful Covent Garden market tree. This is the same farm that supplies the royal palaces. So the tree here is the little, the big brother of the tree at Buckingham Palace or Sandringham or wherever they might be. Let me turn around. It's nice to see it so quiet. It was madness earlier here today. I was here with a couple, a private tour, and it was so busy because they had some fake snow. It was just mad, like in a festival or a nightclub or something. And behind it, it is St. Paul's Church. St. Paul's Church, not to be confused with St. Paul's Cathedral. This is the church. It's also known as the Actors' Church because a lot of the actors are buried inside, because they used to do funerals on Sundays when a lot of the actors were not working. I'm just gonna go to the back to turn around to give you a view of the market, and then we'll wrap it up. So if you do have any questions about anything before we go, do let me know in the chat. There we go. So that's the beautiful Covent Garden market. So Covent Garden, as it used to be the gardens of the Abbey of Westminster, really, they used to plant, they used to grow vegetables here. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Matthew. Thanks, everyone, for joining today. And thanks, everyone that left me a little tip as well. So you've got, if you don't have the links to PayPal or Buy Me a Coffee, it should be in the tour description anyway. And hope you all have a great weekend and a merry Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve, no, that's done. Next year, New Year's Eve, I meant. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Trish. And let me show you my face again. Oh, thank you, Mike. Cool. Yeah, it's a bit annoying because I can't put the link with that little bug, but hopefully you'll find them. Thanks 01. Thanks Pisas. Thanks Lethargy. Thanks Maria. Any of you, if any of you were completely new to me, hope I got you hooked. Hope you'll give me a little subscribe so you can make sure you don't miss out on the fun next time. And have a great evening, a great morning, whatever time it is for you, wherever you are in the world. And I'll see you next week. I've got 2 tours coming up next week in the Alps. So I'm taking you to Briançon, a fortified city in the mountains, and I'm taking you to an interesting lake as well, with a forest that eats people. People go missing in the forest. Anyway, see you later. Bye bye.